Hello, and welcome in, you guys. We got One Piece, chapter 1127 here with us today. And would it be odd if I said that this chapter reminded me of the good old days? Not like the new-current days are bad necessarily, but this chapter really did fill me with a sense of nostalgia that I haven't felt in a while in One Piece. I mean, not only do we have the Alabasta 6 exclusively on the island, but we're also being chased by giant animals, and we don't really know what to expect. You know, it reminds me of Jaya, Skypiea, a little bit of Little Garden mixed in there. Like, this is a great time. But I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself because we gotta start things off chronologically. And we're gonna start with that cover page story. So, we get volume 15 of Yamato's journey today. That is right, guys. We've been with Yamato for over 15 weeks now. And it seems like Oda is going all in on this kidnapping subplot. So, on Yamato's journey to deliver Yasuo's sword to his shrine, it turns out that the kidnappings around Wano have been ramping up. We've been focused on the kidnappings for the past 4 chapters. You know, we started off with some random person trying to kidnap a young woman. Yamato saved them. Next thing you know, Minato went missing. We learned from the soba shop that women in curry went missing. And now even Duke Inuarashi, the newfound daimyo of curry, is even worried about the kidnappings. What is going on? So if you've been with the channel for a while now, then you guys already know all of my guesses, right? We've talked about the possible Blackbeard connection, maybe the Cross Guild connection. Hell, we even talked about Kaido and Big Mom doing this. But at this point, you know, we got no new information in this chapter, minus the fact that the Scabbards are now getting involved. And yeah, that's all we really have to go off of. You know, one funny scenario I just kind of imagined in my head is if Momonosuke were to turn into a dragon like Kaido and just fly around Wano looking for the kidnappers, which is totally something that he could do, right? Because just thinking back to Kaido, when we first met him in Wano, that's exactly what he was doing, right? He flew over to see what Ashura Doji was up to. You know, he flew over to talk to Basil Hawkins. You know, he flew over, he picked up Tama. It's like, dude, Kaido was just running laps for fun at that point. So I could totally see Momonosuke just flying around Wano 2 and just solving this issue, but I honestly don't think that's gonna happen, simply because this is Yamato's adventure, and man, I'm still really curious to see what the hell is going on with this kidnapper. You know, I wish we could have gotten some hints in this chapter, but we really didn't. But now that the Scabbards are, you know, worried about it, maybe we will see some more Scabbards later on in Yamato's journey, and they do start giving us hints along the way. I think that would be pretty dope, and it was nice seeing Inuarashi in this chapter, considering the fact that the main villain in this chapter just so happens to be a cat. You know, you can't have the dog without the cat, and you can't have the cat without the dog. All right, guys. So now we're moving on to the very first page of this chapter. And do you see this smile? This is the smile of a man who's officially hit the Elbaf arc of One Piece, baby. Yep, that is it, guys. We are here. It is officially confirmed. The Strawhats are in Elbaf. And guess what? In that very first page, we see Yggdrasil. Yes, the giants actually call the tree in the background Yggdrasil. And I have a couple of opinions about this. So, for the longest time, you know, the fan base, everyone has been speculating that Elbaf is home to the Atom Tree. Why is it not called the Atom Tree? You know, is Yggdrasil and the Atom Tree 2 separate things, or are they one and the same and the giants simply call it Yggdrasil? Because that is a possibility. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there are some interesting things going on regarding this tree. Like, for example, when we first hit this chapter and we see the 2 giants talking about the forest fire that we later find out Luffy and the boys caused, they're like, hey, if that forest fire hits the tree and that tree goes down, then the country is finished. And some questions that arise from that simple conversation is, one, could a simple forest fire actually take down Yggdrasil? Because, you know, going back to the Yggdrasil versus Atom Tree thing, the Atom Tree, when we first heard about it, we heard that it was a tree that withstood cannon fire, withstood wars. So if that's the case, would a simple forest fire actually take it down? So yeah, maybe they're 2 different trees, or maybe that legend is just, you know, blown out of proportions, or maybe fires are just on a different level. Another thing that really stood out to me was when the giants said that the country would be doomed or finished if that tree went down. And I'm just sitting back here, you know, very cynically, I'm like, wait, why would it be finished? Right? Because when you think about trees in the world, if a tree went down, life isn't over, life goes on. But, since this is One Piece we're talking about, since this is a mythical tree we're talking about, what are the consequences if Yggdrasil does kick the bucket? Would Elbaf truly be doomed? Would all of the giants die? Would all the animals die? What would this scenario look like? And the reason I'm wondering about this so heavily is because just thinking back to Fishman Island, that country truly did rely on the Sunlight Tree Eve. Without that tree, all of Fishman Island would be complete and utter darkness, and the fishermen wouldn't be able to live down there, or at least not comfortably. So maybe it's the same thing here. Maybe if the Atom Tree or Yggdrasil goes down, then the giants do lose something that they really rely on. And just going over to Norse mythology for a second, in every iteration of the Yggdrasil dying, it's a cataclysmic event. Gods are dying, the world is dying, the universe is shattered. Yggdrasil dying in Norse mythology is essentially endgame, right? So I could totally see that being the case somehow, some way. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. What do you guys think about Yggdrasil? Could a simple forest fire really take it down? And also, if it goes down, what the hell would happen? So, since this is the scenario, since the giants did witness a forest fire going on, they're like, hey, we need to contact the sun god immediately. And it's like, hold up, wait a minute. The sun god, they're not talking about Luffy, right? Because Luffy is in the giant Lego castle. No, they're talking about a different sun god. So now I'm wondering if there's a fake sun god here on Elbaf. They call him Taioshin-sama, which is literally translated to sun god. And reading that really made me just lean back in my chair and scratch my chin, because there's two ways this could go. One, this could be Loki, Thor, maybe even Odin or some other Norse god. Or the sun god could simply be referring to a giant animal. Because, going down the dialogue a little bit, the giants talk about how they heard that the ear god went down. Ear god? Who is it? Well, we come to find out at the end of the chapter that the ear god is actually just a giant rabbit, right? It's a giant rabbit. So if that's what they're calling the ear god, then there's a good chance that the sun god is something else. It could just be another giant animal. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate and run with this idea for a second, and then I'll go back and tackle the Loki, Thor, Odin route here in a minute. But let's say it is an animal. What animal would it be? They named the ear god because rabbits have really big ears. So when it comes to sun god, I think that this could be a lion. And hear me out, because base level that sounds a little bit ridiculous. But you gotta remember that whenever Oda draws lions, for some reason they're always mistaken for the sun or a sunflower or something of the sort. The Thousand Sunny is a prime example of this. Back in the day, Frankie said he wanted to do it as a lion, but a lot of people saw it as the sun. And then we go on into one of the more recent cover page requests. Oda actually depicted a lion as a sunflower. So there is a chance this could be a lion they're referring to, or if we really wanted to spin this and get crazy, it could be the golden lion Shiki if it was really him off the coast of Elbaf. Another way I could see, going back to the Loki, Thor, and Odin route, this could be just the Norse god, right? Because I don't understand why, if a forest was on fire, you'd contact an animal. I think it would make more sense if they were talking about a fellow giant, somebody who could actually put it out and understand what the hell is going on. So yeah, I do like the Odin route a lot. I could even see Loki pretending to be the sun god. I hate to bring in the MCU into this, but Loki has been seen on numerous occasions impersonating Thor and Odin. So yeah, maybe this could be Loki pretending to be the sun god, and then Luffy would have to claim the throne and show that he's the real sun god. And the best part about that plotline would be that Luffy doesn't care. Luffy still doesn't know that he's the sun god. So I think there could be a lot of fun dynamics at play if that is the case. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. You're going to hear me say that a lot throughout this video, but your opinions, your thoughts, they do matter. And if you thought of some cool ideas that I haven't thought of or brought up, I would love to hear them down below. Also, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, but since we don't see Chopper in this chapter, it does make me wonder if one of the giants saw Chopper and they're now regarding him as a god, right? Because one of the key distinctions of the cat we see in this chapter is that the cat can turn into a lion. Chopper has like 1,000 different transformations. So if that cat is one of Elbaf's gods or kings, then what would they regard Chopper as, right? Like, would Chopper be like a god among gods even? And that could explain why he's missing? And also, what would they name Chopper, right? What kind of god would he be? The god of horns? The god of horniness? Throughout all of mankind's history, whenever somebody thinks of Elbaf, they automatically assume it's going to be Usopp's arc, because this directly ties into his dreams of becoming a brave warrior of the sea. But what if this is more than just Usopp's arc? What if it's Nami's arc? Because we don't know her backstory truly. We do know the Nojiko and Bellemere stuff, but before that, at Oikot Village, what happened there? I mean, Oda did say that if Nami were from a country in the real world, she'd be from Sweden. And that is considered a part of Norse mythology and, Scandinavian culture. So there is a chance Nami could get some stuff here. And by extension, maybe even Chopper could get some interesting shine here as well. Because for Chopper, we still don't know what is going on with this devil fruit. Because when you go and look at all the devil fruits in One Piece, they either have a fruit shaped as their powers or just a random fruit that has swirls on it. For Chopper, his devil fruit, oddly enough, came in the shape of a mushroom. And that mushroom made him turn into a human? Maybe Oda's doing a play with the human anatomy there, but even in Chopper's human form, he doesn't look human? When you think about all the other Zoans in the series, they can transform 1-to-1 into what their devil fruit actually is or modeled after. So since Chopper doesn't have a, hairless human form or something that looks like a human, it's always made me scratch my head and wonder if something more is at play when it comes to his devil fruit. And if there was a time to expand upon that, it could be here on Elbaf, right? I mean, he is the one Straw Hat missing. We don't have to really go down that route. Oda doesn't have to do that, of course, but it is something I wanted to play with since he is currently MIA among the Straw Hats. Another more logical reason as to why Chopper might be missing in this chapter is simply because Chopper could easily resolve all of our problems if he were here. Chopper has the power to talk to animals. So if Chopper were here, maybe we didn't have to fight the giant cat. Maybe we didn't have to fight the ear god or the insects or the hedgehog. So maybe by omitting Chopper, he created tension in this chapter. Oh yeah, one small detail that I thought was pretty cool is that on the second page, on the back of one of the giants, you can actually see a shield. And on that shield is a depiction of the sun. I don't know why, of course, we've seen that a lot, but it's just nice seeing that the giants truly do worship the sun god. It's not just Dory, it's not just Brogy, no, it's all the giants, man. Another detail that you might have noticed in the background is that the houses are actually made of Legos. What's happening? Why are the houses made of Legos? Every time we've seen Elbaf, it's always wooden houses. Why do we have Legos all of a sudden? What is going on? Is this a new trend that all the giants are hopping on, and we've only simply seen the older parts of Elbaf? Is this just a specific district of Elbaf that has Legos? I don't know. This could even be a devil fruit, right? This could be the work of a devil fruit. Maybe somebody ate the block no mi, and they're simply going around, making houses a lot more sturdy. I'm not too sure what's going on here, but one potential hint we have towards what this might be has to do with the next and I guess only new location we go to afterwards, which is Big Stein Castle. The castle that Nami, Usopp, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are currently in. So I don't know how accurate this is, but I did look up Norse translations for the word Stein, and apparently in Old Norse, Stein means stone. So maybe Lego blocks in Elbaf are actually just their version of stone. Maybe just like how Wano has a big repository of gold, or maybe Elbaf just has a lot of Legos that they can dig up, furnace, and then mold into brick? Yeah, I'm still not too sure what's going on there, but it is pretty cool that if you translate Big Stein Castle afterwards, it would just translate to Big Stone Castle, which I think goes pretty damn hard. So we come to find out that the person who tried to wake Nami up last chapter is actually just Zeus. And Zeus mind you, is the MVP in this chapter, in my opinion, because Zeus actually gets a lot of dialogue in this arc, and not just that, but Zeus defeats multiple opponents. You know, he takes down the bug that was chasing Nami. He then later takes down the hedgehog, and via collateral damage, he even hurts the cat. And it's pretty cool to see, man. You know, Zeus was kind of tossed to the wayside at Egghead Island. Like, he had one scene where he fought S-Shark, and that was cool and hype. But besides that, Zeus is kind of forgettable. You know, he's there, but he's not there at the same time. You know, he doesn't always add an input. So seeing him and Nami in this chapter for me was just a big win. It feels like Zeus is our 10th Nakama on the crew. So Nami is woken up by Zeus. Zeus is over here beating some cheeks on the side, and Nami is afraid because she's alone. You know, her crew isn't with her. So she screams out to see if Luffy's nearby, Zoro, then Sanji, and hell, she ends it off by saying, I'd even take Usopp at this point, which I thought was kind of interesting, right? She didn't yell out for Frankie, Robin, or Brook, Jinbei, or even Chopper. So it does seem really intentional that Oda put them in this order. You know, it makes me wonder if by the end of Elbaf, this will be flipped upside down, and Usopp is going to be the one person that she wants to see. Of course, that is just me trying to push that Usopp agenda on the side, because I am expecting something good for him later. But in this chapter, it's not there yet, right? And that is fair, right? We just got to Elbaf. People are expecting Usopp upgrades right away. That's not usually how it goes. You know, we gotta take things step by step. So Nami ends up running to a hedgehog because she hears Usopp's voice over there. She ends up running away from the hedgehog because it's actually quite violent. And that is when she stumbles upon Usopp. And Usopp isn't exactly in the position to help her because he's currently fighting a giant cat that is wearing a crown. So Nami's like, hey, I can't help you and me at the same time. So she turns around, she uses Zeus one more time, she electrocutes the hedgehog, it then falls onto the cat gets electrocuted, the cat drops Usopp, and then they take off together, running away from the cat who survived that electric blow. And the cat is very interesting simply because it's wearing a crown. You know, the other animals we see in this chapter, whether it's the bees, the bug that was fighting Nami, the hedgehog, none of them were wearing crowns like this cat. So it makes me wonder if maybe this cat is another, quote, god of Elbaf. Maybe it's the cat god, or maybe it's the paw god, or the meow god, which doesn't sound that cool. But yeah, like, I've even seen theories of people saying that this could even be Loki. Because Loki, like we said earlier, is a trickster. You know, maybe Loki transformed into a cat and then later transforms into a lion. I don't think that's the case personally, simply because when the monster trio comes in later to defeat this giant monster, it does just turn back into a regular, well, quote, regular giant cat. So I don't think it's Loki. I think this is just one of the animals of Elbaf going crazy. Maybe it's even one of their gods. But yeah, I digress. So while Usopp and Nami are running away, they're saying, hey, how did we get here? Well, it must have been because of that green fairy, that absinthe we drank on the giant ship. You know, it causes hallucinations. Usopp says, oh, you know, of course, this is all one big bad hallucination. I'm gonna attack this cat because it doesn't actually exist. So Usopp, right after that, gets slapped into oblivion, which I think is peak One Piece humor. You know, very rarely do I actually bust out laughing at a manga chapter. Normally, whenever something funny happens in One Piece or any other series, this is my reaction. But no. This time around, seeing Nami throw up the face and seeing Usopp being slapped away, I actually did one of these. So yeah, I love the comedy here. I thought it was a perfect 10 out of 10. You know, maybe my bar is a little bit lower than other people, but it does, like I said, remind me of pre-time skip One Piece in a good way. So due to the cat's attack on Usopp, Stein Castle's walls crumble a little bit, and that is when the cat, alongside Nami and Usopp, all take a tumble onto a bottom tier floor. And that is when we see a couple of interesting things. Most notably, the cat turns into a goddamn lion. So I'm going to disregard the Loki theories for a minute, and I want to tackle the most straightforward option. The fact that this could just be a lion zoan devil fruit. That could make sense, right? The cat ate a lion zoan devil fruit, it's fighting some people, so it said, hey, lion mode, go! But even though that is the most straightforward option, my gut, my One Piece conspiracy theory soul tells me that that's not the case, and that this might be something a little bit different. So, besides Loki, besides the Zoan Devil Fruit, the two other options that I came up with is that one, maybe this is just how the animals of Elbaf are, right? Because whenever we get to a new island, animals don't exactly react or evolve the way they typically do in real life. Long Ring Longland is one example, Gaimon's Island of Strange Animals is another one, Skypiea is another one as well. So maybe the animals of Elbaf can just transform. But then again, it also has a crown. So maybe this is the one animal that transforms. Maybe that's why it has the crown in the first place. Another thing I'm thinking of is that maybe this is a transformation that the animal got from the Yggdrasil tree. I know, it sounds a little bit wacky, right? Why would the Yggdrasil tree transform the cat? Well, I immediately go back to Strong World. So in Strong World, the Strawhats were also fighting giant, ridiculous animals. And we come to find out that the reason why they're so giant and ridiculous is because of the plants on the island, and because Shiki and his crew were experimenting on the animals. So maybe that's the same thing here, right? We've seen time and time again that Oda will take ideas from movies that he's written, like Strong World, and he somewhat incorporates it into the main story. Not one-to-one, but loosely. So maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe the Yggdrasil tree is what gives the animals of Elbaf these weird transformations and have them shapeshift a little bit. I could see that being the case. And then now, going down the Loki route, this cat is wearing a crown that looks somewhat akin to the crown we see Silhouette Loki wearing. So maybe this is him. Maybe this is his transformation. And also, people in the community have been pointing out that the story of defeating a giant transforming cat is a part of Utgard Loki's mythology, where Thor tries to lift a cat. So maybe this is a play on that mythological story. And now, for my final crazy theory about this cat and why it transforms, maybe it is simply due to the crown. Because once this crown is broken, the lion does revert back to its cat form. Of course, this could just be a coincidence, but I thought I might as well point it out here. Outside of the giant cat lion, though, another thing that really stood out to me is the fact that there are human skulls right beside Usopp and Nami. So that means that these aren't the first two people or humans that have visited Stein Castle and died. So what is Big Stein Castle exactly? Is it a prison for humans? Is it a breeding ground for violent, crazy, transforming animals? I don't know. You know, even going back and looking at the structure of Big Stein Castle, it's not exactly built for giants, and it's not exactly built for humans. It looks like it's a castle made for the medium-sized animals, right? Because when you go back to the chapter where the Straw Hats were on the giant ship, the Straw Hats were super tiny compared to everything else. But here in Big Stein Castle, it's like medium-sized. Yes, everything is larger, but it's not made for giants necessarily. So it does feel like it is a castle that's exclusively made for medium-sized animals, which is a weird way to put it. But yeah, how do you guys feel about the size here? You know, what do you guys think Big Stein Castle is all about? And if it is a prison, or if it is a place where giants send people to die, why are the Straw Hats here? Two things about this segment that I did find kind of interesting is that if this is a, quote, prison, then this does remind me of Impel Down Level 2, because on Level 2, they did have a lot of giant crazy animals, the Sphinx being one of them. And the Sphinx and the lion we see in this chapter, they look damn near identical, minus the butt chin, of course. So yeah, that was kind of notable to me. And another notable thing that a lot of people have been bringing to my attention is that back in chapter 424, Usopp actually talked about how if a cat lives 100 years, it will then transform into a lion and its tail will get split into two. So this could be another one of Usopp's fabrications or lies coming to fruition, which has been a thing that has been going on since the beginning of One Piece. So with that being said though, I am currently trying to compile a list of all of Usopp's lies, the ones that have come true and the ones that have yet to come true. And I would love if you guys could help me out a little bit. You know, if you remember a lie that Usopp has said in the story, please let me know down below. And also if you could link the chapter as well, or, you know, give me the chapter number, that would really help and I'd really appreciate it. And also, I'd appreciate it if you guys checked out my gaming YouTube channel and my Twitch channel, which is also linked down below at Syvduck. You don't have to do it, but I'd appreciate it if you did. So now, on to the next part of the chapter. Nami and Usopp are in dismay, right? They can't beat this lion. I personally think they could if they used Zeus and Usopp actually did something, but right now they're helpless. And that is when the monster trio shows up. Yep! Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all show up, and they do a combination attack. I'm cracking my knuckles like I'm there in the battlefield, but we got Luffy using Gear 4th? Gum Whip? Elephant Whip? Sanji uses Ifrit Janbei, Zoro uses a Black Rope Dragon Twister, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And apparently, this is also a direct callback to chapter 162, where the same trio, in the same panels, using the same moves, take down the Sandora Lizard. They're not exactly the same moves, but, you know, in this chapter, they're like upgraded versions of the same moves, which is kind of the same thing. The reason why I hesitated and paused when I said Gear 4th Luffy is because he's not in Gear 4th. Luffy actually uses Gear 3rd in this chapter, but in the Japanese Raws, Luffy does say Gear 4th. So yeah, this might just be a simple mistake from Oda's team. It's no big deal. You know, going back to the beginning of Egghead Island, when we first met Atlas, they gave us the wrong number on Atlas. You know, in that same chapter, we saw Rob, Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy looking at a list of the Vegapunks, and they gave Atlas one number. And then when we see Atlas in that same chapter, Atlas has a different number. So, you know, mistakes like this happen. It's just a quick accident. It'll be fixed when the volume actually comes out. And I'm kind of curious to see what the Viz is going to translate this as. Like, will they take the initiative and call this Gear 3rd? Or are they going to stick with the Japanese Raws and go with Gear 4th? I don't know. We'll see. So now that the monster trio have arrived, we get a quick little update as to what they've been up to. Turns out that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are the ones, like I said earlier, who defeated the, quote, ear god rabbit at the beginning of the chapter. They're also the reason why the fire started in the first place, because they were simply cooking the rabbit. And, you know, feels bad for the rabbit man, which also, now that we have that revealed to us, I wonder if there's going to be any fallout. Like, was the ear god rabbit actually a god that they worshipped? Or is it just a fancy, cute little nickname? I don't know. You know, this could, for all we know, cause some turmoil amongst the giants, right? Because the Strawhats, whenever they enter a new island, they always start off on the wrong foot. I don't know why that always happens. Not always, you know, but 9 out of 10 times, whenever we enter an island, we're always the opposition. Dressrosa, Fishman Island, right? At Fishman Island, we were welcomed, and then boom, we kidnapped the princess. Oh no, let's go kill the Straw Hats, right? Wano, oh, the Straw Hats are here. This is Kaido's territory. And now here we have it. Maybe by Luffy killing and eating the ear god, maybe that upsets the giants, and it turns them hostile until we resolve all of these issues, and they realize that Luffy is the sun god. Or this could be a nothing burger, right? Maybe they don't care about that rabbit, and maybe there's like 10 more in the next town, right? So yeah, Luffy, now that he's had a taste of the Elbaf animals, he just wants more. He wants to go on a hunger pang. But Zoro reels it back a little bit, and he says, hey, we gotta find our crew. You know, we don't know the well-being of the rest of the Straw Hats. We don't even know where the Thousand Sunny is. We should probably, you know, deal with that first. And then there's Sanji on the other hand, and he picks up on Luffy's, you know, idea of wanting to eat food, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, those bees we took down earlier, their honey is actually quite nutritious, you know, thinking back to those guys, it would be quite nutritious, which is another callback to the beginning of the chapter, you know, thus tying it all in, because not only did the giants say that the fire started, the ear god went down, but they also talked about how the bees of Elbaf are also being knocked down one by one. So yeah, we get it all wrapped up here. It was indeed the monster trio that were causing all of the chaos here on Elbaf. So now that we got all that out of the way, it's time to talk about these outfits. And I'm gonna be quite honest, guys. You know, I don't always hype up outfits when it comes to One Piece. You know, some arcs good, some arcs I was like, you know, maybe some designs could be better. But so far, man, I am loving these Elbaf outfits. The only thing I dislike, if I had to nitpick, I don't like the giant shoulder pads that Zoro has. Like, maybe if Zoro just had one giant shoulder pad, it would be more acceptable in my eyes. But, you know, two of them, dude. The guy's built like a football linebacker right now. Or not built like one, but he looks like one. Outside of that, though, I love Zoro's glasses. I love Luffy's helmet. You know, Sanji looking like a knight. Man, these guys look fresh. And then there's Usopp, who has a beard for some weird reason, which I'll touch on here in a second. So, going to Luffy, you know, I'm going to start from the top, work my way down to the bottom. Luffy has long horns, and the axe he has on his back reminds me of the axe that Oda showed us when he first depicted Luffy as a Viking, all the way back in like chapter, I think it was 11 or 12. But yeah, in one of those chapters, Oda drew Luffy as a Viking, and his outfit looks kind of similar as to what we got here, with, of course, a couple of modern adjustments. As far as the hat goes, the big horns, maybe I'm stretching when I say this, but it reminds me of a beetle, which the reason why I'm going to stretch it to that extent is because Luffy time and time again has shown that he absolutely loves beetles, right? Going to Eket Island, he picked up a beetle that was, you know, on top of Bonnie. You know, going to Jaya, Luffy was talking about beetles in the One Piece and how they're both really high in regards in his mind. So yeah, Luffy's helmet, kind of like a beetle. So Sanji, like I said, he looks like a knight, but what every knight has is a sword. And Sanji has a sword on his back. And I feel like it's just a throwaway sword, or else Zoro would be interested in it. But I thought that was pretty cool. And sad to say, though, like, even though Luffy has an axe, even though Sanji has a sword, and even though Nami also has a sword on her back, I don't think they're going to use it. I think it is merely for decoration. It's just a part of the outfit. But there is a small, like, fanboy side of me that wishes to see, like, you know, Sanji whip out a sword and go crazy, or maybe Nami whip out the sword, or Luffy whip out the axe. I know they wouldn't, because they have stronger, you know, weapons in their arsenal. Like, Luffy has his fruit, Sanji has Jeremy DNA in his feet, and then, of course, Nami has Zeus. So there's no reason why they would use those weapons, but you gotta admit, they're a pretty damn cool accent. So now, spinning it back around to Zoro, I absolutely love the goggles he has on, man. I don't know what it is. It's not like he needs the goggles or will actually get any use out of them, but I think goggles and Zoro, they just come hand in hand to make a beautiful design. And maybe this is why I felt so nostalgic reading this chapter, but the last time, if I recall correctly, where we saw Zoro with goggles was all the way back in Skypiea, man. So yeah, good times here. Love the designs through and through. And now the last design we need to talk about is Usopp. So Usopp has a beard. And it's not bad, don't get me wrong. I thought it was pretty cool. You know, he even sported a beard and mustache back in Wano as well. So it's nothing new. But we did have that SBS where Oda drew the Straw Hats in their good and bad timelines. And in Usopp's bad timeline, Oda did depict Usopp with a beard. So I can't help but look at all these beard sops and think that Usopp might not be living his best life right now. You know, maybe Usopp isn't on the right path to becoming a brave warrior, and he has to change that later. That could be the case, or maybe Oda just thought the beard would be really funny looking on him, right? And that's the thing with these videos and me talking about all these chapters. Like, I am here not just to give you guys, like, the brass tacks, but I'm here to also be a conspiracy theorist and look deeper, even though there might not be any meaning there at all. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about all these designs down below. Whose design is your favorite? Personally, I think Luffy's my favorite right now. I just love how clean it is. It doesn't have anything wacky going on with it. Second place, I might have to give it to Sanji. And the thing with Sanji is that it's kind of basic, but it's good because it's so basic. I want to put Zoro there, but it's really just those shoulder pads, man. Those shoulder pads really kill it for me. But everything else about his design, I think, is great. After that, I'd have to give it to Nami and then Usopp. And don't get me wrong, all of these designs are great. I don't, think Usopp's is the worst by any means. It's just not the best among the best, right? But now, outside of that, though, we got a couple of other things to talk about. Now that we've talked about everything on this chapter, it's time to speculate about things that we might see coming up. So, Zoro said they want to find the ship, right? And that does bring up a pretty solid point. Where are the other Straw Hats right now? Last we saw, Robin, Frankie, Brooke, Jinbei, Lilith, Kuma, Bonnie, and the Giants. That's a lot of people, by the way. That's a lot of people. Last we saw, they said that they won't come back to Elbaf until they find the Straw Hats. They can't just abandon them. And that's simply because they don't know that they're already on the island. So I do think it will be some time until they get here. I think we'll have a solid day, maybe 2 days, until we see the rest of the gang, which I think is pretty good, right? Gives them time to develop, gives our group right here time to develop. I think it's a win across the board. But one thing, I think I talked about this last week, but I want to bring it up again. But I do have a inkling or, some bone in my body that's telling me that the next time we see Robin, Frankie, and the boys is going to be with Kid. I know. To the people who hate Kid out there, I'm sorry, I brought it up, but hear me out. Last we saw, Robin was joking and said, oh, maybe a giant fish ate them. Maybe it ate the Thousand Sunny. Seems like a harmless gag, right? But then Frankie backs it up. And Frankie says, oh, Robin, that's crazy. But also, these fish are really big. The reason I think Kid might be here is because back before Kid fought Shanks, if you want to call that a fight, Killer and the rest of Kid's crew mentioned how big the fish of Elbaf are. And there's that weird connection where it's like, wait a minute, Kid is sinking into the ocean. How will they survive days upon days being underwater? We don't know. But maybe a fish ate Kid. And Frankie, Robin, Brooke, Jinbei, wanting to find the Straw Hats, maybe they go underwater and find the fish. And they're like, hey, we have your pirates. We actually ate somebody. We ate somebody and their ship. Because remember, they're not just looking for the Straw Hats. They're looking for the Straw Hats and the Thousand Sunny. If a fish were to eat Kid, they would have also ate their ship. So maybe Jinbei goes down and they're like, hey, we have a ship. We have a pirate captain. We have the people you're looking for. Jinbei, talks to them in his fish language, blub, 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 blub. And then the fish spits out Kid and the ship. And we're like, what the hell is this? We wanted Luffy. Why did we get Kid? I could see that being the case. I may make a whole video on that. I know, crazy lunatic idea, but I do think this will tie everything in all together. Outside of that, though, why are the Straw Hats here? Going back to the Alabasta 6, why are the Straw Hats here? Why are they in Stein Castle? And why are they dressed up? I can understand that they maybe showed up to Elbaf and things got crazy and they just landed here. Maybe Luffy used a rocket and brought them all here, but that wouldn't explain why they're dressed up. Because if this were them coming off of Egghead, they'd still be wearing, Egghead or normal clothes. They're not. They are dressed up as Vikings. So somebody brought them here. Somebody knows they're here, and they haven't told the other giants. And that's got me worried. Is there really a trickster here on Elbaf that's doing this to them? Is it Loki? Is Loki the kind of guy that would just take the real sun god and, other high bountied pirates and just drop them in the middle of a castle? I don't know. There's a lot of weird things at play here. And, even thinking about the Thousand Sunny, where did that go? Is it simply off the coast of Elbaf? Will the other Straw Hats find it? And then that's how they'll know to go back onto Elbaf? If anything, this chapter raised more questions than answered. And, going back to one of the main questions, where is Chopper? What happened to our little guy? I already brought up some ideas earlier about him being maybe worshipped as a god, or, maybe Chopper is in some high places. But there's also another scenario where Chopper is legitimately kidnapped. You gotta admit, if you saw Chopper just walking down the side of the street, what's stopping you from opening up your backpack and shoving that little guy in there, right? So yeah, maybe somebody kidnapped Chopper. I wouldn't blame them. It wouldn't be the first time this has happened. The fake Straw Hats tried to kidnap him. Foxy tried to steal him with the Davy back fight. So yeah, this could be a reiteration of that. Chopper, quite honestly, just can't catch a break. But hey, with that being said though, guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for being here, stopping by and checking out all the way through to the end. I really freaking appreciate it. You know, all the time you spend here, it really means a lot to me. You know, I'm just a guy over here talking into the wind, and you guys are here in the wind with me. You know, you're in the turbine. But yeah, make sure to leave your comments down below on what you thought about this chapter. In the next 3 to 4 days, we will be coming back, revisiting these comments, and just reading through them in a video. So if you want your comment featured, make sure to comment down below. I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'll catch you guys later. There's a break week, so, you know, stay tuned for the usual collabs with Par, Brago. New guest to the channel is coming in as well, so that's gonna be pretty fun. And yeah, peace out, guys. Have a great rest of your day.